Welcome back to the newest edition and episode of Ryanology of our 2022 to the 2023 school year. I am your host, Ryan Arruda, and thank you for tuning in. On this episode, I'm very fortunate to have Mr. David Tatelbaum, the owner of Big Value Outlet, telling us about his life story and the unfortunate closing of his business, as well as his future and beyond. Please stay tuned and enjoy. Welcome back. Today on the show, I have the current owner of Big Value Outlet, Mr. David Tatelbaum. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Absolutely. So today, on our first episode of Ryanology for the new school year, we wanted to bring over a familiar face of the town of Dartmouth, a select board member, and the current owner of Big Value Outlet. And we wanted to bring him on the show today to talk to us about, your humble beginnings, learning the new news of Big Value Outlet closing, obviously unfortunate news to the town of Dartmouth. We have children who've grown up with your store, your father's store as well. So if you'd like to just start, where did it all begin and how did this pathway start for you to where you are now?
Well, Ryan, my father was in the retail business. We actually grew up in the city of Brockton, about a half hour south of Boston, and he had stores in that area and moved to this area in 1962, and they opened up the store, the Mars Bargainland USA it was called. The first store was in the north end of New Bedford, and that now is currently, it's a Whalers Cove residential complex, and he opened there and started in '62, and then he opened up a second store in '65, which was the Big Value store, the Mars store in South Dartmouth. And I was a kid, 10, 12 years old, fooling around the store at that point and being acclimated to retail, and that's how it all began. And I went on to, we moved here permanently from Brockton. I actually attended Dartmouth High School all 4 years. And that was a fantastic move. I loved Dartmouth High School, and I have 3 out of my 4 kids also have attended Dartmouth High School. So I've been a resident here for, other than going to Boston, to school in Boston at Boston University, I've been here in Dartmouth the whole time.
So from that point where you started the Big Value Outlet store, your time here in Dartmouth, how would you say it has, changed you, your family life, and just different aspects of yourself?
Well, I guess I would answer that first by saying, when I travel and come back, I am so thrilled to be back in the town of Dartmouth. I like it here. It's a great spot. It has all the things you need to bring up a family, and now we have grandchildren coming through, so that's we've got a second chance at that as well. So, being in the retail business, it's all about working with people in the store, my staff, but also with customers who come in constantly, and to develop this incredibly long-term relationship. That we opened up the Big Value store in Dartmouth in 1990, so that was over 30 years ago. And you develop these relationships, and you become a part of the fabric of the community, and that's very humbling, and people appreciate it. So.
Yeah, and from that point on as well, you've been a huge supporter with different programs around Dartmouth, with our very own Dartmouth High School TV media program as well. So obviously your knowledge and your ability to kind of show and guide those different groups and organizations, it must have just been really fantastic.
I do. I have been given great opportunities to help out, and it's become a mission for me. I think it's kind of like I'll give a shout out to Gifts to Give, the mission at Gifts to Give, which I support and work with Jim Stevens there well. And his mission is to open young kids up about giving back and philanthropy at a young age, and expose what it's like to help somebody else out young, so it becomes part of your life. And as I've been here longer and become more acclimated, it's become important to me, and I've had great opportunities and took advantage of it. So yeah, it's good.
And especially with the final years of Big Value Outlet, unfortunately, COVID having to be one of those years and taking up that chunk of time. What have you done to keep that spirit of community alive, not only with your store, but with those other organizations that we spoke of?
Well, COVID was like everywhere else. It was a real challenge. We closed the store for a month, but I look back, even in my service to the town, I see that what it meant to schools and kids like you going to school. I can only imagine how difficult it was to all of a sudden say, no school, can't go to class, or all these new rules. And I think it's humbling for everybody. And I've always said so much respect, for instance, for the school committee here, because every decision they made each day seemed like it was like the next day was another decision to make, because things change so quickly. And I think adapting the change and being flexible and open-minded, I think, was a real lesson for COVID, aside from the poor people who got sick, really sick, or even unfortunately passed away from it. So it was humbling and a learning lesson that you got to be flexible.
And luckily, we all experienced that together.
Yep.
Moving on, learning that flexibility
Yep.
too as well. So more about yourself and your future. You and your wife are fortunately retiring after 30 long years in this business, in this location. So what are your plans for beyond?
Well, we got once we close up shop and the place is shut down, which I haven't experienced myself. I've never gone home at night not knowing there's a store there to worry about for 50 years in retailing. Between the time I had my own stores at Big Value and working with my father, this is going to be a real delight for me to know that I can go home, the job's over, and I can do other things. I can make choices in the morning as opposed to know it's time to go to work. So that's the first and biggest thing. One of my first trips will be, my daughter lives in London, and we're going to be going there in October. We've been a couple of times, but because of COVID, we did not go. At least 2 or 3 times we had to cancel. So that'll be our first trip to, once we retire, to go to London.
And obviously, like you mentioned, with your grandchildren, celebrating, family life, family time, it's the most important thing.
It is. And between COVID and working, all of us, including my sons and daughter, there's lost opportunities. We want to try to take advantage of those. So it's something we're really looking forward to. And my wife and I together, she was a retailer early on. Between us, we've been in retailing over 100 years between us, which is something I realized a few weeks back. So.
And now, did her family have that retailing past as yours did?
No, she's from Ohio, started early on herself and came here and continued. So she's like me, hasn't experienced a lot of Christmases where you had to worry about working and getting ready for the holiday season. As you know, it's the busiest time of the year. So yeah, well, it's going to be good.
So going into that future with that positive attitude, obviously very important, and looking towards family times. The both of you together must be really fantastic.
Great. And I haven't lost sight of the fact that opportunities to serve other groups in town and around the area. I like my work here at town with the select board and other great institutions and not-for-profits around town. I really look forward to that too, because I'll have more time to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, once again, congratulations on your retirement, Mr. Tatelbaum, and thank you for joining me on the show today. It's been a true delight. My
hat's off to you. You did a great job, but also the whole staff here. I'm so impressed with the whole program. Mr. Parati, what he's done, so it's a privilege to be here for me too.
Thank you.
So thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Ryanology. I'd like to send a big thank you and a congratulations on his retirement to Mr. David Tatelbaum. Please join us in the following episode, which will be coming out very soon, where I will be interviewing the newest principal of the Dartmouth High School, Mr. Ryan Shea.